There is a lot going on here with Dead Reckoning, but it's very pretty to look at. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Dead Reckoning Letters of Marque, the upcoming expansion to, well, Dead Reckoning. This is a Kickstarter game. There will be a link to it down below in the description. You can check that out. And everything you see here, well, it's not entirely true. The parts of the expansion that you see here are prototype and rules components and all that stuff subject to change. The rest of the base game is, well, finished and done with, and I imagine that's not changing quite as much. In any case, Letters of Marque is the expansion, the newest expansion, the only real expansion, depends how you count the sagas, to Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning from AEG was a Kickstarter that launched, well, a year plus ago, eventually landed and arrived to generally positive praise, and they are now coming out with the Kickstarter expansion, Dead Reckoning Letters of Marque. Letters of Marque is going to add a few things to the game, and this review is going to give a very light overview of Dead Reckoning, and then go into what Letters of Marque adds, and my opinion and all that, and how it affects, changes, or mixes up the experience. Dead Reckoning is a piratey game. A piratey game which you could also be a merchant instead of a piratey. In fact, you could choose to never ever once initiate a fight if you so choose, although I recommend the fights, they're a lot more fun. But in Dead Reckoning, the general goal of the game, before we get to Letters of Marque and how it changes it up, the general goal of the game is to achieve one of a few different objectives over here. Well, 4 of a few different objectives. You're going to have a bunch of objectives lined up here, each giving you points and a criteria. For instance, having 30 money in your stash, that'll give you 2 points. Having 5 different buildings laid out, that'll give you 3 points. Having 3 level 4 cards, that'll give you 4 points. Each of these objectives are going to give you points, but they're also going to be one of the things that triggers endgame. What you're going to do is you're going to be going until one player has achieved 4 of those, and then the other players will take each one more turn, and then you'll trigger the endgame, but that player does not necessarily win. That just triggers a scoring up of all the various ways you can get points in this game, from those actual goals you're going to have, from the amount of money you have in your chest stashed away, from the control you'll have over various islands, from any number of different things, from cards you'll have in your decks. There's going to be a lot of things that give you points in Dead Reckoning, and the goal is to try to achieve those points and build up a deck that works towards that structure. Speaking of your deck is a big part of Dead Reckoning because you're going to have a card crafting system. A card crafting system which you're going to have 12 cards in the game, and you're going to slowly slotting into those cards different sleeves. During the course of the game, you're going to be doing 2 things to upgrade your deck. This is not a deck building game where you're going to be adding more cards to your deck, weeding your deck, or doing things like that. This is a deck crafting game. Those same 12 cards that you start with are going to be the same 12 cards that you end with, except they will be slightly different along the way. Because every single turn you'll have the opportunity to upgrade a card in your hand. We have a deck hand over here. Well, you're going to go ahead and pull out one of the sleeves over here. You're going to pull this out, and then at the end of the turn you can go ahead and rotate that in order to make it a level 2. Then you can flip it in order to make it a level 3, and then you can flip it again in order to make it a level 4, slowly increasing what that deck hand can do, basically bringing this deck hand up to a 1 influence cube and 3 sails from the original starting off baseline of a single influence cube. There's going to be a variety of different cards. There's going to be 8 different cards that you have to deal with. A nice little player that'll show you everything, show you how those cards upgrade along the way, so you can watch their progression and help them grow to be their strongest potential across the course of the game. But that's not it. You don't just have these cards, you also have these sleeves that'll be going into those cards at the same time. So in addition to the fact that you can level up this deck hand, turning it into a level 3 deckhand over here, you can also slot in the sleeve. We can also put the sleeve in place, so we can push this in, and now we have a new ability along the edge. There are 3 potential ability spots for every single card, which means you can have a card that is both upgraded in, well, upgrading itself from level 1, 2, level 3, level 4. Also, additionally to that, it is also going to be getting multiple cards into its deck, slowly improving itself as you go. These cards are going to do a variety of things, from getting you more barrels, more goods, one of the economies of the game, to getting you more coins, to helping you draw more cards, to getting more control over the islands, to sailing faster across the ocean. The general idea of this game is it's a deck crafting game which you're going to craft and build your deck in such a way that it gives you the greatest potential to achieve everything you want, which is going to be anything from combat to area control to gathering resources, to any number of variety of different ways to build up and get as many points as possible, so that ultimately you can be the surviving pirate in Dead Reckoning. That's the high-level overview of Dead Reckoning. Again, not going heavily into it. There's a lot more facets going on here. That's a high-level idea of Dead Reckoning. Be a merchant, be a pirate, control a variety of islands, produce various goods, figure out your particular pathway to victory, and then craft your deck around that strategy. Letters of Marque comes into the picture with a few new things. Letters of Marque, first of all, is going to be giving you an entirely new saga. If you're not familiar with Dead Reckoning, going back to Dead Reckoning has 2 sagas already in existence that came out with the first game, and both those sagas offer you new ways to play the game. Dead Reckoning has a way you can play the game as an ongoing campaign as you unlock the saga, or you can just slowly introduce the saga to whichever players are there, whether or not they were or weren't there the last time you played. The saga content is a way of adding content to the game that has a bit of an iterative journey approach to to the gameplay, in which you'll be having cards that will go into these various ways. What happens in the course across the course of the game is, as you're going across these islands, you'll unlock new islands, and when you do so, when you reveal a new island, you're going to start adding cards to that island, cards that can be purchased, cards that will be available every single turn to purchase. And then every single time a card is purchased, another one will come out, and these cards are going to enter the game, giving you ways to upgrade. But the cards are also going to introduce a bit of a saga element if you or when you are playing with the sagas. Those cards will give you different things that, as you go through a bit of a progression, you gather this card, that card has you read something from a journal, this card has you attack a pirate. Depending on how that pirate or depending on how the merchant attack goes, you're going to have different consequences, and you'll read something from a different saga. And so the sagas are going to slowly introduce new cards to your game, giving you a not a campaign in a typical sense, because you can play it with whoever you want, and you can continue replaying with whatever, but it has a way of slowly interweaving content into the game. Similar a bit to Space Base and the emergence of Shy Pluto, if I recall correctly. The idea of having content slowly entering your game without it actually being a campaign or legacy system. That is primarily what the sagas do, and they do craft a bit of a narrative, a bit of a story, but it's up to you as far as how much you want to engage with the story with the same group, or just have it slowly unlock as you play through the game. So Letters of Marque, first of all, is going to add a third saga to the game. I'm not going to go into the various content of this, leave that to you to discover, but it's going to introduce a third saga to the game, and it's a saga that does not need you to have played the first two. You do not need to play the first two at all. You can go straight to the third saga, or you can have the first two and add the third saga in, whatever you want as far as exploring that content. But then additionally, it's giving you a bunch of new things as well. It's giving you the Flags of the New World, content, which is going to be this whole aspect over here where you have two different nations where you're vying for their influence, you're vying for Letters of Marque. You're slowly going to be moving up these tracks on the top to get bonuses as you go. You're going to be doing different things to cash in for influence in those nations, eventually getting to a point where you get a Letter of Marque, which is your own custom ability, and then you can try to get Letters of Marque from multiple nations, but other players can try to overtake you to get Letters of Marque. So you're getting ongoing bonuses in these nations as you go, but you're also going to be getting bonuses towards the end. When you get to the end of the track over here, you'll get five points over here, and it'll count as one of these endgame conditions. Speaking of which, you'll also, if it suggests, you don't have to, it suggests revising the number of conditions you have to win from 4 to 5. So you're going to have these tracks you're trying to be mindful of, and there's also going to be various ships over here. There's going to be ships you can engage with, where depending on whether you fight those ships or acquire those ships, those will give you opportunities to get influence with various nations. And so you're moving up those tracks, trying to gather bonuses, potentially as you go up different tracks or down different tracks, becoming a bounty for the other nation, where other players can hunt you down and gain influence in that nation by, well, attacking you because you're desired, you're against them, in some way sought after from those nations. But past that, what are the things you're trading into those nations? You're going to be trading in various goods to those nations to gather influence. It's one of the common ways you can gain influence. When you return to port, you can trade things into those nations and get influence in those nations. Those things are going to be these over here. You're going to have two new prime cargo on the map that's going to be it's going to be put out on the map, either in ocean regions or on islands and ocean regions on the board, and you'll have the opportunity to discover this prime cargo, and it does continuously come out again and again and again, meaning it's not just a one-time thing, but as you turn over prime cargo, and depending on the cards you have, because there is a new explorer card added to the game, you're going to have new ways of adding prime cargo to the board that will give a way to gather these various tokens. And these tokens are going to be used for a few things. They can be used to cash in for the nations, so you get influence there, but they also have single-use abilities on them. You'll have these single-use abilities on them that give you a variety of ways you can get different things. This Black Pearl token, first of all, when you flip it, it tells you that you should put another token down on water and another token down on land. That's going to be one of the ways you have tokens entering the game. You'll have a little plus directional symbol of where they go and how more tokens spawn, more prime cargo spawns, but this one is going to allow me to get 2 gold onto my ship. There's a variety of other tokens that will let you do any number of different things. There's a whole stack of tokens that will give you different abilities, and you can either trade them in for their actual prime cargo type towards the nation, or you can go ahead and use them and cash them in for the benefits. Additionally, you'll have that Explorer I mentioned. That Explorer that has a few ways this one upgrades over here. Let's pull this out over here. You'll have an Explorer that gives you a few different benefits, including a new symbol, and this new symbol over here is flipping over a prime cargo. Prime cargo is going to start on the game hidden, and you'll have to reveal it before you can pick it up. On an ocean tile, you can just pick it up once it's revealed. On a land, you have to actually control the land in order to pick it up. As we flip this to level 2, it's going to give you an influence and a reveal. Level 3 is going to give you an influence, 2 reveals, and it adds a prime cargo to any location on the board. And then lastly, you have level 4, which gives you any combination of 3 be flippings or addings, plus an influence, plus allowing you to treat any prime cargo as any type, which can be very helpful for abilities or for trading it in with the nations. So you're going to have a new Explorer card that's going to give you that ability to integrate with the prime cargo, as well as a new upgrade that can go onto your ship. Your ship is upgradable, and you're going to have a new upgrade that can go onto your ship that will allow your ship, as it moves, to reveal prime cargo, which can be very helpful, because otherwise you're kind of at the whim, you're victim to your Explorer when he or she chooses to show up in your deck, in your hand, to actually flip things over. And that's primarily, or that's realistically, the main things that are being added in the Letters of Marque, the Flags of the Old World expansion. It's adding 2 new nations that you are trying to vie for influencing, getting bonuses along the way, getting Letters of Marque that'll give you powerful abilities, and these abilities, by the way, they are powerful. +1 to your maximum hand size. That's not a small thing. Rows 3 and 4 advances cost you 1 less. As you're upgrading a ship, rows 3 and 4 are cheaper over here. And this, keep in mind, prototype rules, components subject to change, and who knows what else they will be added. We have Letters of Marque. In battles against opponents' ships, if you win, only you gain plunder, not them. Letters of Marque, once per turn, you can move 2 money from your ship directly to your stash, no matter where your ship is. These are all strong, powerful abilities that you will want to fight over, because getting them can absolutely be helpful to your strategy. And that's Letters of Marque. That's Letters of Marque and what it's adding to the base game of Dead Reckoning, which means it's time to get into my opinion of the expansion, how it plays, all those things, how it mixes up the experience of Dead Reckoning for me. And the short answer is not a ton. Not a ton, but not in a bad way. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't majorly change up the overall core idea of how I play Dead Reckoning, but it does give you a new pathway that you may want to focus on. Leveling up and powering up your Explorer is huge in this game, because it gives you a full new avenue of all these new tokens you can add to your ship, all these wandering around the islands you can go around and pick these ships up. Gathering that ship upgrade as an alternative might be another way to lightly explore that facet of the game without heavily doubling down on your Explorer. But these tokens are very helpful. They're not necessarily essential. You can play through the entire game and still pursue other strategies and still have it be a viable pathway, but the Explorer and the token and the prime cargo all give you a new way to interact with the game with new tokens, new benefits of the board, and they are a fun new facet to add to the game. I would never play without them. To be very clear, I would never play without the Letters of Marque expansion, without the Flags of the Old World expansion, because it is a simple addition, it integrates well with the game, it feels natural to the experience, and overall I really enjoy it and think it's a solid addition. It also doesn't make the game feel different. This is one of those expansions to me that I enjoy and wouldn't play without, but it doesn't totally change up the game, which I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I could take that either way, but it feels like I'm playing Dead Reckoning. It does not feel like, oh my gosh, this completely changed up the game experience. It feels like a nice, simple addition to the game that works well, that integrates well, that improves the experience, but I also don't know if I'd consider it essential. And that's where we come to the fact that Dead Reckoning is bundled with the Saga expansion. If you're someone who doesn't care about the Sagas and all, if you don't want the Saga content in the slightest, then it may or may not be worth heavily pursuing Letters of Marque just for that additional aspect. I do like the additional aspect, but I don't know how much the expansion is going to cost and how much it's going to run you and those factors, and whether you care enough about that to add that to the game. If you are interested in both the Saga content and the expansion, this is an easy sell, because of the fact that the Saga content gives you more ways to explore more sagas, and I think that the Flags of the Old World content is a good addition to the game. But I do not think it's an absolutely essential addition to the game. I think it's a solid way to enjoy and increase the various pathways you have to explore your strategies in Dead Reckoning by just adding a full new dimension to the game. Previously in Dead Reckoning, you had a few ways you can try to pursue things, and you always would mix and match your strategies to a degree. You'd have the area control of the islands. You'd have going heavy cannons and attacking other opponents. You'd have trying to gather as many barrels as possible and just build things up there and upgrade your ship. You'd have different pathways and avenues you'd explore as far as the slight tweaks and adjustments to how you were pursuing your own strategy, your pathway to victory. Letters of Marque or Flags of the Old World gives you another addition to that, which is good to have, and I like its addition to the game. So overall, this is an expansion that I think is both great and will always play with, while also thinking it is not drastically essential. It is a good expansion. I recommend the expansion. I don't know how much the game will cost, so you have to factor that in, as well as whether you want the Saga content or not. So final thoughts on this one is it improves my Dead Reckoning experience, not to a major degree, but to enough of a degree that I do definitely recommend again this expansion if you are someone who enjoys Dead Reckoning and, well, wants more content for it. In any case, until next time, I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.